YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with day 4 of the Combine. Winners and losers, kind of recapping it here like we did for every single day of the Combine. So, good day last day with the DBs, a lot of impressive ones. I'm going to go through the corners first. I'm going to do 5 biggest winners from the corners, and then we'll have some honorable mentions for the corners. Then we'll go through the 5 biggest winners out of the safeties, in my opinion, and then honorable mentions for the safeties, and then we'll have the losers of the day. Not my favorite part, but people want to see it. So right before we get started, go ahead and check out those 2 links in the description with our Twitter and Instagram, both fairly new accounts, and we're posting all the time on there. We got a fan-voted mock draft. You guys vote for each pick. I believe we're on to the Jacksonville Jaguars now. That's being held on our Twitter, so go check that out. And then Instagram, lots of posts on there. But let's start with the corners. Sean Bunting, we'll start with him. The Central Michigan corner, 6 foot, 195. You know, when you watch him, you see him, he's physical. He does a good job pressing, a lot of man that Central Michigan runs. And he runs a 4.42. You usually don't expect that from those physical type of guys. And there was a lot today. A lot of physical corners that ran pretty well, tested pretty well. Broad jump was 126. Vertical, 41.5. That's a great vertical there. So he's got strength, he's got speed, he can move, he's very athletic. Before, around that round 5 range, now maybe up to round 4. You know, he's got a pretty big range overall. I think he can go as early as 3 and then as late as 5. So I'm sticking him right in that 4th round range right now. So very impressive from Sean Bunting. Moving on, Jamel Dean, another obvious one. The corner from Auburn, 6'1", 206. So right away, you know, he's got the size. You can see he's kind of bulky too. He's got the strength. And then he runs a 4.30 40 time, which at this point was the fastest in the draft. The broad jump, 130, and the vertical is 41, which is ridiculous too. Very impressive 40 time. You know, I think a very good corner. The thing with him is he seems to be injured a lot. You know, when he does play, he stands out in tape. So before he was kind of a round 6, round 7 guy because the injuries didn't really have anything, you know, to wow about over him, but until he runs the 40, until he shows up the combine in general, actually. So I think a team takes a chance on him. Maybe around 5, maybe round 4. I think a team takes a chance on him because, you know, everyone wants the big corners these days. But now last year we saw maybe the bigger corners aren't the best because these new offenses in the NFL are so fast. You know, the quicker corners are better, but you get the 2-for-1 here with Jamel Dean. He's got to stay healthy. You know, he would be a 2nd-round pick if we know he could stay healthy. So definitely a guy to look out for. Another guy with a big range because we don't know what you're going to get from him, but we can see he's big and very athletic. Another big and athletic corner is Isaiah Johnson, the corner from Houston, 6'2", 208. So we know he's big, he's long. Teams will like that right off the bat. Runs a 4.40. Broad jump is 133. Vertical is 36.5. Before, I had him around round 4. Now it sounds like he could go in round 2. So very impressive. Another example. You know, the teams want the bigger guys, but in today's NFL, speed matters. Quickness matters. You know, athleticism matters. But now you get a 2-for-1 here with a guy like Isaiah Johnson. So he's going to be moving up the boards. And we've seen some solid corners come out of Houston the last few years. So, you know, definitely got some upside here. Next up is David Long. I was very impressed with David Long, the corner from Michigan, 5'11", 196. Runs a 4.45, broad jump 120, vertical 39.5. So great numbers, you know, mainly the 40 time and the vertical. But the main reason he's up here is because of the field drills. I thought very, very smooth, very impressive. Maybe the best of the day in the corners for the field drills. I think, you know, between him and a couple other guys, I think he's definitely up there. You know, a guy that I think will play slot. You know, it reminds me a lot of another Michigan guy who's on the Cowboys, Jordan Lewis. I think David Long's a little more physical than Lewis. And then since he was physical, you know, I didn't think he would have. I thought he'd run well, but 4.45, you know, pretty darn good. That's fast. That's very fast. People forget even 4.5s is flying. So, and then the vertical 39.5, yeah, that's explosive too. Round 4 before, I think round 3, I think he could potentially play. Most likely he'll play slot corner, play in the nickel. He could play outside as well. Moving on, Rock Ya-Sin, corner from Temple, 6 foot, 192. 4.51, 120 broad jump, 39.5 vertical. All good times, especially for him. The main reason he's on here to go with the on-field drills and the testing. I heard he interviewed very well. Teams are very impressed with Rock Ya-Sin. So I thought I had him round 3 before. I know a lot of people had him round 2 already, and I think you can move up to early round 2, or some people talk about late round 1. I'd still be surprised. So early round 2 is more like it for Rock Ya-Sin. Very impressive guy on and off the field, apparently, from what we heard. And then that was the 5 corners. We're moving on to the honorable mentions for the corners. A lot of them. Mark Fields from Clemson had some good numbers. The 40 was impressive. Could have done a little better on the drills on the field. Not a big deal, though. Wasn't bad. Byron Murphy, I think, I mentioned David Long was probably the best on the field. But I think Byron Murphy definitely competes with them. I'd actually give it to Byron Murphy. Didn't test, you would like him to run a little faster, so that's why he didn't get his in the top 5 there. And it's kind of what we expect. He was a technician. He was a technique guy, so we expected him to be really, really smooth on the field, and he was. Greedy Williams, excellent 40. Some people are like, why isn't he in the top 5? He ran that 4.3 whatever 40. So. Yeah, that's true. We kind of expected to run pretty fast, maybe a little faster than we expected. But on the field, we also got what we expected to. A little sloppy. I talked about Greedy Williams before. He was my number 1 corner, but I didn't like his technique. He needs to go to the right team to fix his technique. But he's able to do, what he did in his career at LSU with a little bit of a sloppy technique. So, the field part's not so good, but him running a very impressive 40, which he definitely needed to do, gets him in the honorable mentions. Chris Boyd, I thought another physical corner. He's a physical corner. He can come up and tackle, too. I thought a 4.45 40 was very impressive from him. Another guy that can work on, technique down the field, deep balls. That's where he needs to work, but he should be an outside corner because he's physical at the same time. Amani Oruwariye from Penn State, another guy that I think is somewhat physical, and he's able to, he's smooth in the drills, and pretty solid 40. Yeah, he was borderline. He almost made that top 5. I kind of want to limit to 5 for both. He was borderline. Very good day. Kind of expected a lot of that from him. I think could be a second-round pick at the latest 3rd. Ken Webster from Ole Miss. Testing, definitely not a problem with him. Very good testing at the top for every category. That really wasn't, the question coming in. We knew he'd test well. It's just, on the field, he wished to be a little better, but he's got a lot of upside. And then Justin Lane on the field was smooth, tested fairly well as well. So Michigan State guys, definitely a riser out of the corners. We're moving on to the safeties. Start with Sheldrick Redwine, safety from Miami, 6 foot 196. 40 time was a 4.44. Broad jump was 130, vertical 39. So all just fantastic numbers. I like him on tape, too. He's not afraid to come up and hit. Rangy guy. Not as rangy as his teammate, Quan Johnson, but they were pretty close, on my rankings. And him having the better day here may be the difference. But 2 different safeties. I thought round 5 before. I think he can be a round 4 guy now. We'll see where he gets drafted. Moving on to the next safety. I got Darnell Savage on here from Maryland, 5'11", 198. 40 time 4.36. Very rangy. He can get to one side, or he can get to the backfield from, the traditional safety spot instantly. So it's not surprising that he ran a 4.36. It's maybe a little better than I thought. So impressive. Broad jump 126 and then vertical 39.5. A lot of good verticals at the combine this year. Round 4 before for me. I think round 3 now. Not too many of these, true safeties, and I think Savage is one of those, and he's very athletic at the same time. So very impressive stock up for him. Juan Thornhill was just jumped out of the gym. Vertical 44, absolutely ridiculous. If you see the clip from it too, it's just he's so high. Like him coming down from that, it's just he's falling from so high. He looked like he's gonna hurt himself coming down because of how high he got. 6 foot 205, Thornhill. 40 time is 4.42. Broad jump 141. We mentioned the vertical, very impressive. Round 3 guy before. I think he goes in round 2. He can do a lot. I think he's more of a box guy. Seen him line up, basically at linebacker in big games almost. I think he can play safety too. He's a former corner, so that makes sense. Could be a slot guy too. So he can play pretty much anywhere. And he's got this freakish athleticism. Teams will like him. Today's NFL fits it perfectly. He's rising up. I don't know if it would be, it's not really a long shot if, for him to go late first. I don't think it happens, but it wouldn't shock me. Great day from him. Will Harris from Boston College, 6'1", 207. Great numbers across the board, too. I heard he was excellent in meetings, with teams. So that's very impressive. Round 5 guy before, round 4 now. He's definitely moving up. Teams are very impressed with him. And then the fastest guy at the draft, Zedrick Woods, safety from Ole Miss, a very surprising fastest guy at the fastest 40 at the combine, 5'11", 205. So, he's kind of built too, 205 for just being 5'11". And he runs that 4.29 and the broad jump 122. The vertical's 34.5. That 4.29 is crazy, though, because you watch him on tape. I watched him on tape. I thought he was one of the more physical safeties. I was kind of putting down he could possibly play corner or slot, because you see him in man, they would have him come up and press a slot receiver, and he would do a really good job. He kind of, when he was actually at true safety, he's kind of out of place at times, nothing terrible. But so I'm kind of wondering, where is he going to play? Is he going to play the true safety? Is he going to play in the box? Can he play corner? That press ability looks really good. So this guy's a physical safety, physical defensive back, and he comes and runs a 4.29 and shocks everybody. Before round 6, because you didn't really know what you're going to do with him. Pretty strong, but the 5'11", not short, but not tall. So you kind of really don't know, but somebody's going to figure out something. They want this athletic type of guy in there that can do multiple things. So, maybe a poor man's Juan Thornhill, like we talked about. So round 4, I think somebody takes a chance on him, wants to work with him. Very impressive day from him. The safety, honorable mentions. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was borderline, but the reason he's not top 5 is because he did what we expected. Everything, good 40, everything was good. Very good in drills, but, he expected that. I think he was a round 2 guy before. I think he's a round 2 guy now. Marvell Tell, USC. I was higher on him than anybody else that I saw so far. And, he didn't do a lot of testing. He didn't run the 40, but the testing he did do was well. He did very well, actually, I should say. And then on the drills and the field drills, he was did a very good job as well. So I'm keeping Tell pretty much where I have him. I think he'll go in the mid rounds though. Darius West, I was surprised by his 40 too. It didn't really show up on the tape. He had a very good 40, so he comes up here. Saquon Hampton, the Rutgers safety, again another one I was surprised by his 40. Didn't really see him being that fast in testing here, but he did. And Amani Hooker, across the board did very well. Another borderline top 5 guy too. I thought Hooker could go round 2, most likely 3. He's kind of more of an instinctive guy. Athletic, but more instinctive. And then he showed he was more athletic than pretty much anybody expected here, which is definitely a good thing. Could be round 2, round 3. I like Hooker a lot. And now we're on to our losers. I hate this part because it's just based off the combine. I don't want anybody to react. These guys can still be good. And there's one guy that I still really like on the losers part, and that's who we'll start with, is Joanne Williams, and he's from Vanderbilt. He was my number 2 corner going into combine. He said he's going to run fast, runs in the 4.6. It's a little disappointing, I do like his tape a lot, though. So, and I had him as a first-round corner. Most of the world had him second or third. So he did let me down a little bit with that 40, but I do like his tape a lot. We'll see where he goes. I'm thinking second round. Blaze Brown, one of the slower 40s of the day. I was impressed with him during the year, but between the Senior Bowl and this, stock down twice there. Ryan Pulley, Arkansas. Ryan Pulley, I liked his tape a lot. Another guy I thought I was a little higher on than other people, mid-rounds, maybe 5th round. It's good tape, so that doesn't change, obviously. But then, it sounds weird, but I thought he looked a little awkward, at the combine. I thought maybe a little extra weight added, maybe in the wrong spots. I don't really know how to explain it, but he didn't really look the same to me, and he was kind of at the bottom of all the testing, all the drills. So, unfortunate, but tape is still pretty good, kind of a feisty corner. Still think he can go 5th. Maybe he drops down to 6th. Mike Bell, Fresno State, a guy that everyone else was higher than I was going into this. Mike Bell, I thought he was very good against the pass. I think that's what people focus on that too much. But when he had to get angles or he had to come up and make a tackle, I saw some, it wasn't good. It wasn't good for me. So I wasn't really high at all on him. Other people were. And I think the angle problem coming up and stopping the run, it maybe has something to do with that speed that we saw at the combine that was in that 4.8 range, which is very, very disappointing. So, sock down for him. And then John Battle, we kind of, knew already he was not one of the better athletes for LSU or better players in the draft. And, he kind of had to come here and, show that he's sometimes the LSU guys that really aren't talked about a lot, You know, that goes for LSU, Bama over the years, Clemson's. You know, the guys that really aren't the biggest time players. Some other guys get the spotlight more. Sometimes these guys come in here and test really well and show us they can do it. Maybe they just didn't get the opportunities too much. But so Battle need to come here and test well, and he didn't really test all that well. So these would be the losers, but I think all of them can still definitely have good careers and get drafted, no doubt about that. But that's going to do it for this one. We did all 4 days, so if you haven't seen any of the other ones, please check them out. We got a lot of free agency videos, prediction videos. Free agency is getting real close. I'm getting excited. We're going to have an updated mock draft. I'm going to try to get it done tomorrow. Post-combine, updated mock draft tomorrow. Some of the other guys, maybe one of them will get a post-combine mock draft too. So we're looking forward to that. Yeah, free agency, though, coming up. Draft still coming up. Lots of content coming. We're going to do team-by-team 7-round mocks. You know, I know a lot of people probably have to wait a little bit for their team because we're going to go in draft order, and it's a process, you know, but we're going to start doing that, too, in the very, very near future. So lots of stuff here at the Goat House. 20K is your subscriber goal. Please help us get there. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button, and then click the like button, click the notification button, that'll be much appreciated. We're going to, once we get past free agency, we're going to start going back to live streams. We used to do a lot of live streams, went away from that. So we'll do some here and there, and then the draft will be live too, of course. That's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you turn those notifications on for whenever we go live. It might be random. You know, nothing's scheduled yet. Might just pop up. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for everyone's support. Thanks for watching these videos. Stay tuned for much, much more. Goodbye.